Good morning. Today we are going to discuss about the cardiac cycle. In cardiac cycle, what happens? This is our today's discussion. Coming to the cardiac cycle is the mechanical sequence of events as blood enters into atria and leaves the ventricle. The events includes changes in the pressures in different chambers of heart, that is atrium, atria and ventricles. Changes in the volume of different chambers of the heart. Changes in aortic and pulmonary arches. Heart sounds and ECG changes. These are the steps involved in cardiac cycle. As we all know, heart is four-chambered organ. In this, two will be ventricles and two will be auricles. And in this, atria are atria and ventricles. Right atrium and left atrium. Next, coming to the next, right ventricle and left ventricle. These two are the these two plus two ventricles and two atria combinedly called heart is a four-chambered organ. In this, how the blood enters and how the blood goes out. What is the mechanism involved in this? In this, how the pressure changes in different chambers of the heart and how the volume of the different chambers of heart changes and what are the changes in aortic and pulmonary arteries, heart sounds and ECG changes. Coming to what are the stages in cardiac cycle, that is ventricular diastole. Next, that will be last for 0.5 seconds and atrial systole, that will be of 0.17. Before going to, these are going in a circular manner, in a cyclic manner. So it is called as cycle. Coming to first phase will be ventricular systole, okay, then ventricular diastole, auricular systole, then auricular diastole. These are the changes. Ventricular diastole will be lasting for 0.5 seconds and auricular systole will be 0.1 second and auricular diastole will be 0.3 seconds. Ventricular systole will be of 0.7. This is the in 1 minute time. These four changes one in a circular fashion, that is ventricular diastole, ventricular systole, auricular diastole and auricular systole. First, what happens? What is the first change or first phase of cardiac cycle? In cardiac cycle, ventricular systole is the first one. In this, what isovolumetric contraction, that is rapid ejection and slow ejection. Second, after ventricular systole, next ventricular diastole. In ventricular diastole, isovolumetric relaxation, rapid filling, slow filling, and filling D by T atrial systole. Ventricular systole, ventricular diastole. In this, what happens? Isometric relaxation, rapid filling, slow filling, and filling D by T atria systole. Next, these are the main things. First is ventricular systole, then ventricular diastole. Afterwards, what we get? Auricular systole and auricular diastole. First, taking the starting point. In this diastole, late diastole, both sets of after diastole, what happens? Both sets of chambers are relaxed. Both sets, that means atria and ventricles will be relaxed and the ventricles filled passively. Coming to the second point, here atrial systole. In atrial systole, atrial contraction forces small amount of additional blood into ventricles. In this diagram, we can clearly see when atrial systole, these are ventricles and these two are atria. Atrial systole or atria contraction forces a small amount of blood, additional blood into the ventricles. By seeing these figures only, we can depict what happens in cardiac cycle. First, again, from the beginning, we are going again. Both sets of chambers are relaxed. First, ventricles fills passively. And second, this is the second one. Atrial contraction forces small amount of additional blood into ventricles. Then next is isometric or isovolumic ventricular contraction. First is late diastole, in which both sides of the chambers are relaxed and ventricles will be filled passively. After that, atrial contraction happens. Due to which atrial contraction, small amount of additional blood will be flow into or forced into the ventricles. Then in ventricular contraction, this is the starting point. In ventricular contraction, first phase of ventricular contraction pushes AV valve closed but does not create enough pressure to open the semilunar valves. Here, in left side and right side, AV valves are there. At left side will be AV valve will be bicuspid valve, and right side will be the tricuspid valve. Here, whatever the ventricular contraction pushes the AV valves closed but does not open or create the pressure to open the semilunar valves. Then this figure, in this figure, First is late diastole. In late diastole, two both the sets means atria and ventricles will be in relaxed position. Ventricles will be filled by passively, and where in atrial systole, atrial contraction forces little amount of blood into the ventricles. Then volumic ventricular contraction. Here is the first step beginning. A first phase of ventricular contraction pushes the AV valves closed but does not create enough pressure to open the semilunar valves. Here, coming to this ventricular ejection, this figure. Ventricular pressure rises and the exceed pressure in the arteries, the semilunar valves open and the blood is ejected. Here is the first. What happens? First, in late diastole, both sets of the heart chambers will be in relaxed state, ventricles will be in passively, in atrial systole or atrial contraction. Additional amount of blood will be flowed, forces into, a small amount of blood will be forced into the ventricles, and the first starting is isovolumic ventricular contraction. When the ventricles contracted, what happens? It will push the tricuspid wall and bicuspid wall, those are auriculoventricular walls. At left hand side will be bicuspid, right hand side will be tricuspid walls. These walls will be open, but it does not create a pressure to open the semilunar walls. And in this ventricular contraction, semilunar walls are not open. But when ventricle pressure rises and exceeds the pressure in the arteries, the semilunar valves will be open and the blood is ejected. After when the pressure in ventricular pressure rises and exceeds the pressure in the arteries, that will pump the blood into the arteries. So that will open up the semilunar valves. And last, as the ventricular relaxation, ventricles relaxed, pressure in ventricles falls, blood flows back into the cusps of the semilunar valves and snaps them closed. When the semilunar valves are opened, love sound. When the semilunar valves closed, then dub sound. These are the things happen in the first slide itself, first slide itself, we have told that phases of cardiac cycle, first ventricular systole, then ventricular diastole, in ventricular systole, isovolumetric contraction and rapid ejection and slow ejection. In ventricular diastole, isovolumetric relaxation, rapid filling, slow filling. In ventricular systole, coming to this is when the pressure rises in the ventricles, the rising ventricular pressure results in closing of AV valves, okay, results in closing of AV valves, that is heart sound, first heart sound, love. Ventricles are contracting but no blood is leaving. Ventricular pressure not great enough to open the semilunar valves. Ventricular ejection phase opens semilunar valves. Ventricular ejection phase, semilunar valve opens, rapid ejection, 70% blood is ejected, and in slow ejection, only 30% of the blood is ejected. Ventricular diastole. In ventricular diastole, volume does not change as a ventricular relax. Pressure drops and the AV valves open. Ventricular filling. Rapid ventricular filling as blood flows from atria. Diastasis. As blood flows from atria in smaller volume, atrial systole pushes only 20 to 25 ml blood. What happens in cardiac cycle? Isometric ventricular systole. In isometric contraction, 0.05 seconds time. Rapid ejection time will be 0.10 seconds and slow ejection time will be 0.15 seconds. Coming to ventricular diastole. Here, isovolumetric relaxation, rapid filling, slow filling, and filling devertiatrial systole, that is 0.10 second. Normal volume of blood in ventricles. Atrial systole pushes final 20 to 25 ml blood. After atrial contraction, 110 to 120 ml in each ventricle, that is end diastole volume. Contraction ejects greater 70 ml stroke volume output, thus 40 to 50 ml remaining each ventricle. The fraction ejected is then 60% ejection fraction. Simple model of stroke volume. In this we will see what happens. First, ventricular diastole, A diagram. In ventricular diastole, what happens? Blood will be flowing from atria to ventricles. Then end of diastolic volume, what happens? Here we can see the pressure is, here we can see the pressure. Pressure due to pumping, what happens? Ventricles will be ventricular diastole. Then next with diastolic volume will be increasing. Next, ventricular systole. In ventricular systole, what happens? AV valves will be, semilunar valves will be opening and the blood will be close to the arteries. Pulmonary artery and the systemic artery. Here, then stroke volume. This is the end systolic volume. First, in this diagram we can see atrial systole, isometric ventricular contraction, ventricular systole, early ventricular diastole, late ventricular diastole, atrial systole. Ventricular pressure. Blood pressures in aorta will be 120 by 80 mmHg. Blood pressure in pulmonary trunk is 25 to 8 mmHg. Ventricular pressure usually not increases during diastole. Right atrial pressure changes reflected in jugular vein. Again, in this also, we can see the same in a graphic manner. We can see atrial systole, ventricular systole, ventricular diastole, atrial systole. Jugular venous pulse waves, atrial systole, atrial diastole, ventricular systole. In this, A, we can see A, C, X, Y. A wave is due to atrial systole disease, this one, which causes increase in the intra-atrial pressure. C wave occurs during the isometric contraction of the ventricles due to bulging of tricuspid valve. Then V. V wave is due to accumulation of blood during late part of ventricular systole or protodiastolic phase or isometric relaxation of ventricles. This thing. X wave is due to downward displacement of AV valve, that is tricuspid valve, and the AV ring during maximum ejection phase of ventricle contraction. This one. Y wave is due to opening of AV valve, again tricuspid valve, during maximal ventricular filling. Again, AC interval measures the time of conduction of cardiac impulse from the right atrium to the ventricles. The AC interval corresponds PR interval of the ECG. The AC interval is prolonged in cases of delayed conductivity in AV bundle, which is early sign of heart block. In partial heart block, the number of A waves is greater than number of CR. Here we can see A, C, like this. Okay. The number of A waves is greater than the number of C or V waves in partial heart block. In atrial fibrillation, A wave is absent. This is what we have told. What happened? ECG, P, R, and T, again P, QRS, here AC. AC valve is missing, atrial fibrillation. In these diagrams, if A is longer, then minor heart block. This is the diagrammatic representation of what happens in heart attacks. This is all about cardiac cycle. Thank you.